I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
All right, another edition. It's a Wednesday edition of the Daily Puck Drop. He's here. What do we got coming up today on the Daily Puck Drop? We'll talk about Pac12 editions, media rights. Oh, it's everyone's favorite topic. Does Major League Baseball need a salary cap? Jim Moore. Rob Staton from SeahawksDraftBlog.com come up around 10:30. Ryan Divish at 11 o'clock. And, of course, Hey, What the Puck as well, finishing up the show. Also, there was a Costco hot dog scare that we need to talk about. And a story that Jim and I just came across. How big is too big? We will cover it all on today's Daily Puck Drop. I'm broadcasting from the PuckSports studios. It's built by Limbeck Lumber. Contractors, they got free deliveries, everything from old house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them at limbecklumber.com. Jim is with us in his brand new house. He is brought to you by...
Brought to you by a Clean Streak Puck, professional window and exterior cleaning service out of beautiful Oak Harbor, proudly serving Island and Skagit counties for more than 10 years. They do it all for you. Roof cleaning, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, window washing, all those dirty jobs, they'll do them for you so you don't have to. So, and then, you don't want to get up on those ladders anymore. I don't care what age you are. It's stupid to get on a damn ladder. Let Brian Turner and his crew do all of it for you. Give them a call at 360-395-5748 or visit acleanstreak.com and get a free estimate today.
Let's not bury the lead. You are here. You can hear me. The internet problems in your brand new spacious mansion in Bend, Oregon are fixed. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I was embarrassed by it. And I want to apologize to the listeners and viewers of Puck Sports for what happened, the fiasco on Monday. It just, it didn't work out very well. I could hear you, I couldn't see you, but when I heard you, it was just cutting in and out, and I knew you were asking me a question or you were saying something to me, and I just finally had to. I'm glad you're laughing, but it was embarrassing. I do have some professional pride, not as much as I used to, but I still have some, and it just. And I told you last night, I just don't want to be a continuing headache for you or anybody who likes listening to whatever I have to say. I apologize to everybody.
I want you to always continue to be a massive headache.
Well, God. I mean, I just sit there and I put myself in your shoes and I'm thinking, what I don't need is an issue with Jim today because I've got all these other guys who know what they're doing technologically wise. And God, I got to deal with him and what he's doing all the time. So is everything clear and sound okay today?
You sound great. You look great. I'm wondering, is the heat not on in your new house?
The heat's not on right now because the painters are here.
Oh, they're painting. You have painters in your house.
Yeah, it's. I'm in the bathroom of one of the bedrooms right now, and they're painting. And I told you it wasn't my idea. I'm not in favor of it. I didn't.
You didn't want to paint the house. What was the color inside the house before?
It was kind of a beige, but my wife wants it
like a light brown or something.
It was between beige and brown.
Okay, and then what is she painting?
We're going with an off-white, a warm white is what we're going with. And It was kind of funny. You know how it goes with your wife sometimes? She'll say, well, come on, help me pick out the different color. And so she'll put the different shades up for me, those little cards you have. And she goes, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? And I just said to her, I go, does it really matter what I think on this? And she goes, yeah, it really matters to me. And I'm going, no, it doesn't. Because whatever I pick, if it's not the one that you pick, that's the one we're going with. Yeah. And that's how it worked out.
Connor checks in, says, new mic sounds great, Jim. It's not, Connor, it's not a new mic. It's the same mic he's always had. We've had to train him to talk closer to the microphone. But
why don't you just say thank you, Connor? I'll say thank you, Connor.
Thank you, Connor.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Why do you have to say that bullshit that you just threw in there? Huh?
Goldie, it's not a new mic. It's the same mic that he's always had.
Thanks, Goldie. Appreciate it. Hey, in 3 days, I'm going to have something different than water in here. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait till you have, Reggie checks in on our chat, by the way, live chat on YouTube, also on X. And Reggie, who, of course, is the proud sponsor of the Ryan Divish Show, Chalet Bowl. Go check out chaletbowl.com, by the way. Reggie Frederick, his family's owned it for the past 40 years. 3 more days of being dry for Jim Moore, and we'll be celebrating just shit-faced on February 1st.
Okay, what's more annoying? People who talk about dry January or getting Wordle in the second row?
I think you're equally annoying.
Or the fantasy team, how their fantasy teams
equal. And who do you got in your Final Four?
In my Final Four? I'm talking. Okay, yeah.
Those people. Who you got in your Final Four?
Yeah.
Nobody. That's ever.
How's your bracket doing?
How's your bracket doing?
Yeah.
How's your bracket doing?
Yeah.
My bracket fucking sucks, man. That's what it does. It's terrible. It's get terrible every year. Never works out.
Yeah, I love how our coach came to town. I saw he was at the Marco Polo. You're
talking about Jimmy Rogers.
I'm just gonna transition to something that doesn't have anything to do with basketball.
I know, but let me tell everyone, Jimmy Rogers, the new coach who's doing the car wash. They bring him over every year, and he does the car wash where he interviews 15,000 people. And Bill Stevens like, hey, do you want to interview him? I said, no. I'll wait for a couple of weeks to get my own interview with him rather than be in line with 15 other outlets to do the same interview. Now I'm good.
You said no.
Yeah, I said I want to pivot later. I want to do it later.
Okay. Well, the reason I brought that up, since you mentioned the Final Four, you're getting pretty close to a national championship there when you're in the Final Four. I love that our new coach doesn't hesitate about talking about wanting to win a national championship in Pullman. And most of us are going, yeah, right. I hope you're right, coach. But national championship? How about just winning the, what do we play for this next year?
Nothing.
We're not really playing for anything, are we? We're playing for a spot in the Final 12.
I did listen to his Walking the Dogs. I did listen to his interview with old Ian, our former coworker, our friend. We can say that we still talk to Ian, even though he can't say on the air there that he still talks to us and watches and listens to our show every day. But Hi, Ian. Good to see you, and hopefully you're getting prepared for your show today while you listen to us.
Closed door meeting with Rich Moore to follow.
Yeah, guaranteed. The thing about Rogers, I'll tell you this, and it was a good interview Ian did with him. He is no nonsense, man. He's not flashy. He's boring. He is football. These X's and O's, that's all he cares about. And I think it's refreshing because it's
well, you're going to love him anyway because he's going to run the ball. You've been wanting that.
Yeah. It's a huge, he's a stark difference, man, than what we've previously had. You've had all these, cast of characters over there, big personalities, Mike Price, Dennis Erickson, certainly Leach,
Walden going way back.
Jim Walden, Rolovich. I mean, all these guys were just, big person. Even Dickert, was out there, right? This guy, he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to do any interviews at all. He just wants to coach football and win. And so and I understand if you're not a Washington State fan, even when he said it, I think I did a mild eye roll, like, okay, really, national championship. But he believes it, and whatever. It's half the battle, more than half the battle is just believing that you can be good. Why set the expectations? Why would a coach ever come in and go, fellas, here's the deal. We have no shot at getting to the national championship game. Like, why would you say that?
No, yeah. And this business of making it to a bowl game, that shouldn't be an achievement anymore. You're 6-6. That basically says you're mediocre. Although this year, I think it would be with all the changes with Dickert going to Wake Forest and the transfer portal.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I would take 6-6 this year.
Easily. I like him. I will tease this, though. So while Jimmy Rogers was doing the car wash, I pivoted. So coming out, I'm going to wait on it. It's going to come out Tuesday because I'm not going to be doing a live show Tuesday.
Why not?
I've got to take Maple to the vet. Danny Freund. Do you know who that is?
No, should I?
He's your new offensive coordinator. Get to know him, for God's sakes.
Danny Freund. What's his background? Was he a passing game coordinator somewhere? And then
Danny Freund was last year's co-offensive coordinator at South Dakota State. Before that, he spent 13 years at North Dakota, where he was the offensive coordinator. He played quarterback at North Dakota. Jimmy Rogers hired him last year at South Dakota State because he wanted to change their offense up, and he said, what's the offense that gives our defense, my defense, the most problems? It was North Dakota's offense. So he hired him away, and then he came over with him now to Washington State. So I interviewed Danny Freund, and you know who Jesse Bobbitt is?
The defensive coordinator?
There you go, the defensive coordinator. So I interviewed Bobbitt and Freund and Bobbitt, Tango and Cash. I interviewed them both together the other day, and that will be coming out on Tuesday.
What'd you hear from the defensive guy?
Oh, I don't want to give it all away.
Oh, come on.
It is great. You're going to run through a fucking wall for this guy.
Are you?
Oh, yeah. This guy he is I would say this, he's a head coach in waiting. He's going to be a head coach.
Are these guys both in their 30s?
Yeah, I would, you know what, not knowing I would say yes. Young families, so I would say probably mid to late 30s. Yeah, probably. But Jesse,
I'm excited about the whole thing. I mean, you know, and I brought this up before, but I like that they're coming from the Dakota states. I do. I just like that
love
because
the Dakota states.
I just think that, you know, coming to Pullman isn't going to be like some culture shock to them, you know, being out in the middle of nowhere. They've been used to being out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so they know what it's like to build a culture in a town like that, where Fargo and whatever else, Pierre, you know,
Fargo, North Dakota is actually a wonderful town, by the way. Cold in the winter, but beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's going to come out on Tuesday. It's like 35 minutes. It's great. They just go into their offensive philosophy, their defensive philosophy. Like the stuff that Bobbitt talks about defensively is just awesome. It's like you're like, I'm telling you, you're going to like want to run through a wall for this guy. He spent 2 years, by the way, in Pullman. He was a GA under Dickert in 2020, let's see, 2020 and 2021 or 21 and 22. So he knows some of these guys. He has coached some of these guys already. And then Danny Freund, I'm telling you, I'll give you the one thing that when he said this to me, I almost wanted to take my pants off and grab a cigarette. He goes, "Yeah, we're gonna."
I knew you were gonna say that.
It's my go-to line.
Come up with something different than that.
I can't.
The cigarette thing is overused, man. You've used that so many times.
But it's a crutch.
And taking your pants off, really?
It's the only thing I got, Jim.
You're gonna take your pants off based on what an offensive coordinator told you about the Cougar offense next year?
Yes, I am.
Really? That's where you are in life now?
It's sad. I know.
Okay, go ahead. Continue, though. I just felt like it was worth interrupting you for that.
Okay, they're going to run the ball. We all know that. They're going to be physical. Jim, they're going to be under center.
They are. At the 1 yard line?
They're in the red zone under center. They're just going to be under center sometimes. They're not going to always be out of fucking shotgun. When he said that, I paused and was like, Danny, I think I'm choking up a little bit. Because I thought it was illegal to ever go under center again.
Yeah. How many coaches say that, though, and then when...
Oh, I believe them. I believe them.
I hope so. How many coaches ever come in and say, I mean, we always hear this physical style. Well, football's a physical game. How many coaches ever come in and say, you know what, we don't have the horses up front, so we're going to try and just finesse the shit out of everybody? You never hear that.
No, that's true. But I also think like I think it's got a chance to look a little ugly early in the season next year. I mean, because, listen, you've got to have offensive linemen, right? You've got to have guys that can do the style of football that they want to play. And, I don't know. These guys have never played that way. These offensive linemen.
For that.
Yeah, so.
Are you okay with all these South Dakota State kids coming in?
Yeah.
Because there's two schools of thought. It's like, okay, they're buying into their coach. They've had success there at South Dakota State, but they're not Division I players technically.
Okay, and I think it's a worthy concern to have. I would say it's not apples to apples because technically Eastern's Division One, Eastern Washington basketball is, but it's a lower level, Big Sky, right? Those guys,
I already know there's a bunch of wise asses out there probably going,
saying,
you guys aren't really Division One anymore, so what does it matter?
They have a few smart ass out there that's saying that. Okay,
if I'm a Husky fan, I'm probably thinking that, though.
Does Lawan Watts for basketball look like a Division One player?
He looks like he's ready for the NBA.
Does Coward, when he played, did he look like a Division One player?
God.
Yeah.
What could we have been if Coward had been healthy all year?
A tournament team. So here's what I would say. I watched their game against North Dakota State, and then I watched some other game. I think their game against North Dakota. I'll say this. Yeah, I think it's a concern. You have all these guys that are coming up from a lower level. Jim, if I didn't tell you what level they were playing, when you see these guys play, but when you see the size of them, you're going to be like, I can't tell what if they played at FCS. They look like Division I guys. I don't know what they feed them in the Dakotas. I don't know if there's a different diet out there. Farmer kids, they're big kids. Just go look at all the kids that they have got, and just look at their measurables. They're big. You okay over there? Was that a burp? Did you throw up in your mouth? Jesus Christ, man! We're doing a live show here. Did you just throw up in your mouth?
God, well, I don't know what the hell's going on, but last night I was at El Rodeo, the Mexican joint, kind of a dive Mexican joint here in Bend. But it's a great spot. We have a great margarita. I got a piece of pork caught in my esophagus or something. Well,
just next time, is there a cough
so I was in the
button?
bathroom, just like.
Is there a cough button we can hit?
Huh?
So you just don't throw up everywhere. I'm lost. What I was saying. I will say this. When you see their size. I don't think you're just not gonna bat an eye. I'm telling you, when I watched them play against North Dakota State, I'm like, their linemen are bigger than the Cougars. So I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal, but maybe it is. Maybe we.
Well, I like that they've had success where they were, so they know about that. And then coming to Pullman, they're probably okay. We're making a step up here, but we want to prove that we can play at this level too.
Exactly, because I think a lot of them thought that they could play at this level anyways, and then they were overlooked, so they have a chip on their shoulder. They're like, well, F you guys. Now we're gonna prove it. I don't know.
Did you get a sense of when you're watching those games what Rodgers looked like on the sideline? What his demeanor's like or anything? Is he a hothead? Is he calm?
Stoic. Calm and stoic.
You can't tell if he's ahead or behind or.
Exactly right. Yeah. You just don't know. He's just kind of there.
Yeah. No, I'm on board with him. I'm excited about the guy. I suppose I used to care about what they were like in interviews, but I don't care about that.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter. Like I said, his interview that he did with Ian was good. Had a lot of good nuggets in there. But yeah, he's just not going to wow you with his personality. I mean, but I think he's a tough-nosed coach, and he talked a lot about I think Ian asked him a question about. The air raid and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, he's like, hey, it's a great offense. It works. But bottom line is you get inside the red zone, you're kind of stuck. And that's the problem with them. They would be great from the 20 to the 20. They get inside the 20. You got to be able to run the football. Running the football is a part of the game. And they wouldn't do that. And then also, they play in Pullman. The weather changes at the end of October. It's cold. The weather plays a factor. You've got to be able to run the football. You just have to. And when people say, well, we've never done that before, it's such BS. I think people, Cougar fans specifically, get so blinded by Mike Leach, and they forget Mike Price ran the football a lot.
Yeah, he did.
A ton. They ran the football a ton the year they went to the Rose Bowl with Michael Black, with Ryan Leaf. They ran the ball a ton under Jason Gesser. A ton. They went to tight ends a lot.
Now, this is going way back, but in 1988, when we went down to Pasadena and beat number 1 ranked UCLA and Troy Aikman, Richie Swinton had a day. I mean, Richie Swinton was running the ball left and right. So
most people don't remember that. Hey, yesterday, speaking of college football, yesterday, of course, John Canzano was on the program, and he gave a little bit of a nugget. He gave some intel, Jim, on the timeline of the Pac-12 potentially expanding and getting a new media rights deal?
See, I still am targeting like March 17th, that first Thursday of the NCAA tournament. The ball will be thrown in the air. I'm kind of targeting that for like we should know who's in the Pac-12 when that happens.
So there, he says March 17th that we're going to have, we're going to know, he thinks, March 17th, who's in the new, I guess we're calling it the Pac-12 still. I don't know. Pac?
Okay, who do you want? I mean, and how many do you want?
I want 2 of the room. So the rumors are Tulane, Memphis, Texas State. No. I just give me the 2 Nevada. Just give me Nevada and UNLV and call it good. And then I would
I'm right there with you. I don't like the idea of Tulane and Memphis, even if the numbers say, hey, you need to get them because it'll be better for the media rights deal. If it's the Pac-12 conference, I want it to be a geographical thing. I don't want those other schools, even if we don't make as much money without them.
I don't want
the travel part of it. The travel part of it would be great, and I like the idea of it. Yeah. It's Pacific. Pac is short for Pacific.
Yeah, I'm not into Tulane and Memphis. It's stupid.
No.
It it's just dumb. And I agree with people in our chat, Doug. Keep it on the West Coast. I agree with Doug. Keep it on the West Coast. I don't need to see Tulane. I mean, it'd be fun to go to New Orleans, I guess, but I'll be honest with you. I'm not traveling there. I'm not going to get on a plane and go watch them play in Tulane. I'm going to get on a plane and go watch them play Ole Miss. But I'd rather have UNLV and Nevada and go from there. Maybe they can entice Air Force. I don't know. What I really want, and Canzano said it yesterday during the show, you can go back and watch or listen to it, that St. Mary's is just sitting at the front door right now, waiting to be let in.
Are they?
I
love that.
They desperately want to get in the conference. So allow them in, and you got yourself a great basketball conference. I mean, great basketball conference.
How good did St. Mary's look against us?
How about did it make you feel old that their best player, Marshallonis, was Sharonis Marshallonis' kid?
Well, no, everything makes me feel old these days.
Hey, did you just?
I just look in the mirror and it makes me feel old. Okay, but no, you're right. I told my kids, I said, Mikey, Stevie, I go, this Marshallonis kid. I remember when he played for the Sonics that one year too, or was it 2 years? Yeah, but that kid couldn't look any more like his dad, looks-wise, and then playing-wise.
Played just like him. I mean,
and then you leave him open and he nails threes.
The best thing about he had a play in the game, where they were about to pull it. It was kind of tied. Remember, he drove down the left side and he dipped his shoulder into the defender and then got the layup. And I'm like, that's exactly what his dad did all the time when he played for Golden State. He'd create the contact, really should be called the foul, and then would create space and get the layup. And I'm like, God dang it, man, just like your pops.
No, and Randy Bennett, the job he does consistently there at St. Mary's, and that kid they got from Arizona, the big kid, Maroscus or something like that.
The foreign kid that hit the step back.
Jesus, he was good. Yeah. No, you get St. Mary's and you add Gonzaga and you think about all those basketball schools that are in the conference, it'll be well, it won't be better than the Big Ten. Well, will it be better than the Big Ten?
Oh, no, but it's going to be
It'll be better than the old Pac-12.
Yeah, is Ryan point? What about SDSU? You mean San Diego State? They're in the conference.
Yeah, they made the Final Four how long ago? A couple years ago.
It's a very good basketball conference. So add St. Mary's to it, and you've got listen, you're not going to compete with the SEC and the Big Ten for football. It's not going to happen.
What are we at? 7 for football right now?
Yeah.
How about just adding UNLV?
Because John points out that they've been separate before, but there's a feeling in Nevada with their Board of Regents that they want to keep Nevada and UNLV together.
Okay.
So that would give them 9, and then you got 9, and then you add St. Mary's, so you would have 10 for basketball. So I don't know. I mean, I like
hearing that St. Mary's wants in.
It's like I can't remember. I'm trying to remember exactly what John said yesterday. It's like they are sitting at the doorstep waiting to be let in.
Yeah. It is weird, though. I got to admit, Puck, it's weird watching us play in these high school gyms on the road. It's kind of bizarre.
I'm going to tell you right now,
you look behind the hoop and there's a wall. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
there's
it's
some
like-
of them, but I'm going to tell you right now, being in some of those gyms, they're better gyms than anything else in the conference. They are.
No,
They
I
just are.
know. I
They're
know.
great
I'd
gyms.
rather have, like, I remember back in the day, I was hoping we'd play in Bowler Gym. You know, Bowler. We can't play
Well,
in
they
Bowler
should.
anymore.
I know, but
But-
they should.
If we're going to get 3,000 people to the games, I'd rather have it in Bowler Gym than in Beasley.
Yeah, the smaller the venue, the better. Like Heckett is perfect because it's not too big. It's small. It's good.
Heck, it's great.
It's a great environment. Like everything needs to be like Beasley. They need to shrink the damn thing. They just need to shrink it. You know, Gonzaga's a different story. Like last night, it was a zoo there. I mean, they beat the crap out of Oregon State. They ran them out of the gym. That's a great environment. St. Mary's a great environment. I'll tell you the one that's awesome. I went to watch Gonzaga play there a few years ago when we were down for a Mary Lou gymnastics meet. Was University of San Diego. Their gym, just phenomenal gym. So cool.
Yeah.
It's good. Those smaller environments are really cool. So.
And then, you know, you were talking to Canzano about the media rights deal. I like the part that he threw in there about it being innovative.
Yeah.
That they might go with something that hasn't been done before. And I'd be all aboard. And of course, I have my technological struggles. But if Apple could get back into it again or something, anything, any one of those streaming services, I don't care. Amazon, whoever it is, just, you know, forget. I think people are on board with that stuff enough that we're going to get enough publicity and promotion out of that, and that we don't need to be on ESPN or one of the major networks. I think we'll be okay.
Sean's being a smart ass in the chat. A bunch of basketball schools, and then you have Wazoo. F you, Sean.
Well, Sean hasn't been watching the Cougs this year.
Yeah.
We're actually pretty good.
Yeah, Sean. You don't know what you're talking about, Sean.
I don't know how we lost to Washington, though. Jesus. Well, what the hell? I mean, we're a better team than Washington.
Because Washington picked the one game to actually shoot from outside.
God. I like how the Huskies are getting that rude entrance into the Big Ten, though. That's fun.
Big Ten's tough, man. I mean, I think all those. I mean, minus Oregon. I mean, all those schools are gonna feel it. None of them are doing well besides Oregon. I mean, they just
and Mick
travel's
Cronin
too much.
bitching about the travel. I love that.
Well, but I also
Mick.
think.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, but Mick, I would probably say that Mick was just not on board with it.
Yeah.
I don't think he was on board with the move. I don't think most coaches were on board with the move.
No.
I just don't
How
think
could you be?
especially for basketball. It's just too hard to be on the road as much as they're on the road. Hey, all right. So again, Pac-12. Go listen to the Canzano interview from yesterday, March 17th. He says that's the date to maybe circle for an announcement there on expansion. Oh, hey, I was thinking about this. You're a big baseball fan.
Yeah.
Is it time that we need a salary cap in baseball with what the Dodgers
Yes.
are doing? Do you not like what the Dodgers are doing?
Not at all. Does anyone, unless you're a Dodgers fan? It's almost like they're making a mockery out of the whole thing. And so.
But can other teams spend like them? Not like them, but to a degree.
Well, they can, but how many do? What, the Mets, Yankees, and Dodgers? And who am I missing? Do the Cubs spend a lot of money? I don't know. I
They
just
used to. They don't anymore. Hey,
Don't you think-
Corey checks in real quick? I wanted to get Corey in here on the chat. Best Mexican spot is Rancho Viejo, Main Street in Pullman. Thank me. Hey, Corey, we love you.
we've been there.
Hey, Corey, do you think you're pointing out Rancho Viejo to two people like us? Like we've never been there before, Corey? Come on, Corey. Corey, how many times I've had a Mexican flag there?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. No, the Dodgers, I don't like it at all. I just don't like it at all. Because, like, whatever the Mariners do, like, even if they sign Bregman and they signed Alonso, it's still not going to measure up to what the Dodgers have. And I know that you can't necessarily buy a World Series, but you sure improve your chances by spending more money, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of hit and miss on this one. I mean, one, I don't have any animosity towards what the Dodgers are doing. People say, "Oh, they're it's a mockery." Why? The rules are set up. The rules are set. There is no cap. I mean, there's a luxury. They have a luxury tax they have to pay, but there is no cap for them. So if they've got the finances to do it, then let them do it. This is the rules they've created. Does it create an imbalance? It's interesting, though, Jim. Think about it. We haven't had a dynasty in baseball forever. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, even the Dodgers, the fact that they spend all this money, it's not like they're winning it every year. I mean, baseball is not like the other sports. Meanwhile, the one sport that creates parity, right, that is supposed to create parity with the salary cap, is the one that has a dynasty. And that would be the Chiefs in the NFL.
Yeah, fair enough. God, I hate it when you bring up good points. So,
well,
it's just like yesterday when you brought up. I mean, you just basically you did it in a nice way, but I thought that guy put a lot of work into that story about Safeco Field and T-Mobile Park, and what it does to hitters and what it does for pitchers. And I thought, God, what a well laid out, well researched story. And then I listened to Puck Sports yesterday. And you basically said, what a bunch of bullshit. If you get good hitters here, they're going to hit no matter where you put them.
But it's true.
I know.
I'm not disagreeing with the premise that the reporter had about all the factors. It's cold. Yes. It's windy. Yes. It's a hard park to hit in. It's a pitcher's. Duh. I mean,
Were you surprised to see it's the coldest park in baseball, though?
Yes. I didn't think that. I was like, really?
Over the course of the season, what was the average high? 62 or something?
62. But listen, I mean, I had a great conversation yesterday with Adam Jude. Adam Jude was texting me left and right. I don't think I don't agree with you saying it's excuse making. And then so he and I, as we were both walking our dogs, decided to have a nice long chat. And then I just said at the end of it, I said, Adam, we should have just recorded this whole thing. It would have been great. But if you have talent, it's going to trump everything else. And I laid out perfect examples of players that have hit at that park. Now, some of them at different periods of time, and I thought the point that Adam brought up was great. I mean, he's like, hey, you can cite 2001, but you also have to keep in mind the game is different. The level and quality of pitchers are much different now than in 2001, and that's great. I can't counter that because that's a great point. Because these guys now are just so much more elite than what that 01 team had to face.
No, you're right. You're right. But everything you brought up, though, it basically some of that stuff with the batter's eye and the sun angle, and then even apparently there's a tailwind that helps the pitchers.
That was the one where
T-Mobile.
That's the one thing where the article started to lose me just a little bit. Not because it's not well researched or accurate. I couldn't, because I'm an idiot, couldn't keep up with it. I didn't understand. So there's a wind. The guy was writing where it's not the wind coming in. But
the tailwind helps the pitcher somehow.
Yeah, it's a wind that comes through between the mound and home plate. That's the problem. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I just think, look at the guys they have acquired since Dipoto has taken over. They're all what do they have in common? Most of them are not good hitters. That's the common theme.
All right, what about the pitching part of it, though? Where the Mariners on the road are not the same pitchers they are at home. Well,
it's a clear advantage at home, and I also think it should pause a little bit. It should pause how much praise we give them for finding pitchers. A little bit. Just a small piece.
God, you can always just find that little nugget, can't you?
Just a little bit. Because it's not like I will say.
Well, it wasn't so little. If it was that little, you wouldn't have brought it up.
Okay, don't you think look at the numbers, how different they are at home on the road.
Well, the one that really struck me was Munoz.
Yeah.
Good Lord, I didn't realize he was that bad on the road.
But he's like one of the anomalies. I will say this. Their starters overall, go look at the road splits. They're still very good. They're just elite at home. So that's why I'm just poking fun more at it. They're elite at home. They're still good on the road. They're very good on the road still compared to Major League standards. They're all good pitchers. They're great pitchers, all of them. It's still one of the best staffs in baseball. But they are benefited from playing at home. I mean, that's clearly. So.
No, there was a lot of interesting stuff in there, though. Even, like the way the ballpark was built, not necessarily the dimensions of the park or the weather, but the way it's situated. Maybe they should have had home plate in center field and going the other way. You know,
maybe, but I would just say if there's plenty of people that have hit there. You know, in his first year when he took over the job in 2015, go look at Robinson Cano's numbers. Robinson Cano tore up Safeco Field.
Robbie could hit. Robbie
Because Robbie can hit anywhere. They need guys that hit the ball. Whether you call it small, it's not small ball or old school baseball. They just need to acquire guys that hit the ball into the gaps and have doubles. And that's what Julio Rodrigues is. He's a doubles hitter. He's a gap hitter. That's what he should be. And if you go look at his rookie season, as I pointed out yesterday, he tore up at home. He was great at home. And then because these guys, this organization, hopefully they've learned their lesson now, are so addicted to launch angle and drive line, they changed them and said, well, you got to start hitting the ball you got to start hitting home runs more. No, you don't. No, you don't. Let him be the hitter he is, and that's why the best thing they've done is let Edgar come on board, because Edgar's got him back now to being how he should be. And those those doubles that he's going to hit at home, when he goes on the road, those are going to turn into home runs.
And then if you have an approach where you're trying to hit doubles, you're going to end up hitting home runs.
Exactly right. And then if they play more of a style that they did in the final, like 26, 27 games, where they're hitting the ball into the gap, using their speed and all, whether you old school baseball, just putting contact on the ball with the bat, you know what? It's like a running game in football. That travels to any ballpark. Any ballpark.
Yeah. No, it does. So hopefully it'll pay off this year. I mean, I don't know if that sample size was big enough with Edgar and Wilson, but they added Seitzer as a hitting coach, and there've been good things said about him. So hopefully it'll be different this year.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully one day it will be. All right, it was great to see you. You sounded great. You look great. We got the mic fixed. You got the new house. Can't wait to get the paint job up. I mean, I do think it's curious that you had a light brown inside paint job and then you changed it to white.
What's curious about that?
It just kind of fits with the whole ethos of Bend, Oregon, I guess.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. I'm glad you brought that up. You brought that up with me before we went on the air, and you felt like it was important enough to bring it up. I already knew that. You already told me how you felt about that. You felt like everybody needed to know that?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
See you Friday. Go Cougs.
What's Rob Staton waiting in the wings or something?
He's waiting in the wings, ready to go, and he's burning up. He's got thoughts on Klint Kubiak and Senior Bowl thoughts.
Okay. Well, tell him that I like Kubiak's misdirection and the zone blocking scheme. Okay, tell him.
Will do. I'm going to tell him that right now. Thank you.
Go Cougs. See you later.
Go Cougs. There he is, Jim Moore. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays brought to you by A Clean Streak. Professional window and exterior cleaning services. Also, Bright Owl Lighting. Next Christmas holiday time, Bright Owl Lighting is your spot. All right, let's talk some football. Let's talk some Seahawks. Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family-owned and operated since 1926. Superior Linen Service committed to delivering the highest quality products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today, suplinen.com. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Rob's with us. We're going to talk Klint Kubiak, why he likes him. Was he their first choice? Senior Bowl thoughts, and what is the most pressing need for your Seahawks next? You can follow Rob on social media there at Rob Staton. Also on YouTube, Rob Staton Football. And, of course, read all of his work at SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Jim wanted me to pass you a note to say that he likes the Kubiak hire because of the zone blocking scheme.
Okay.
Do you think Jim understands what a zone blocking scheme is?
I don't think many people do who are not in the game. That's part of the problem, isn't it? That's been quite interesting actually following this Senior Bowl for the last few days. I don't think people realize that when an interior offensive lineman gets shoved 5 yards back into the quarterback, that the fact that he didn't disengage while doing it doesn't mean that it's a win. So, with the zone blocking stuff, I think people have a kind of like a rudimental idea of what it is. But that's perhaps one for the coaches out there.
One for the coaches to, and all the all 22 bros to all break it down, which we're not.
They're having a good week, aren't they?
Which we're not going to do. I just the all 22 guy just drives me nuts. All right, Klint Kubiak, you wrote about it, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. You like the hire. Tell us why.
I think because he has a degree of experience. He's worked for a defensive-minded head coach in the past. He has actually called plays. I think he's had a degree of success. I don't think you can hold him responsible for what went wrong in the New Orleans situation, simply because of all of the injuries that they had. He has contacts in the league, so you would imagine they're in the process of building a staff now. And I just think for me, it's the surest thing. It gives you the best chance of this sort of just being competent and functioning and working. And that's really where the Seahawks needed to go. I think Hank Fraley, obviously, there was some appeal there because of the work that he'd done with Detroit's offensive line, but he's never called plays. They were going to have to put somebody on his right shoulder, telling him what to do in the passing game. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I was intrigued by a 28-year-old offensive coordinator, but is that really the direction you want to go when you've just fired your last offensive coordinator after 1 year? I think this gives them a chance to have, like I say, a functioning offense. And maybe he was the guy they always wanted, Puck. I mean, there's been a little whisper, a word on the street, stuff like that, that really the delay in this was the fact that he was still waiting to see what was happening in New Orleans. Because he was settled there. He's on the record saying he enjoyed living there and he was close to the family base in Houston. So I think they were maybe just seeing what was happening there first, and they've still not appointed a head coach.
Yeah, maybe it was that. Maybe he was holding out for that opportunity. It seems to me, just, I don't know, outside looking in and just basing it off what, Garofalo had told me 12, 13 days ago when he said and had the report that he was in the driver's seat. It felt like this was the guy all along, but they probably, to your point, waiting on to see if he were to get the Saints job. I think with Hank Fraley, I don't think they ever offered him the offensive coordinator job. I think they offered him a role to be like a run game coordinator and to maybe split the duties, because I can't possibly fathom that they offered him the offensive coordinator job and then he turns it down to remain in Detroit to be what? He didn't even get a promotion, really.
Yeah,
I did.
I don't agree with that, just because I think the big thing with him apparently was that he has 5 kids and several dogs, and they are very, very settled in Detroit. And the fact that his wife was the one who kind of broke the news suggests that maybe the family side of things was a big deal for him. And she even mentioned in her initial thing that we were never going to go to Chicago. It was always going to be Detroit. So I'm not sure that they ever offered him the job, but I think that they probably had talks, and as they were waiting for Kubiak, it was kind of left in the air, go and have a think about it. What do you want to do? And then he's decided to become the run game coordinator. And that's a better fit for him. It's a better fit for him because he's not called plays. He gets to still work in Detroit. And in a year's time, if things go well for the Lions, he will have other opportunities in the future, I'm sure, to be an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think we're agreeing to the same thing. I think that the job here was to probably partner with Kubiak. I don't think he was going to be the offensive coordinator. There is, I don't know. I'm not. If he turned down a job to be an offensive coordinator, to remain in Detroit because of his family, to be a run game coordinator, that's just that's idiotic.
No, I really I'm going to disagree. So as someone who is,
that's a job, that's a promotion. Yeah. He didn't even get a promotion. Okay, he got a minor promotion. That's career suicide. Like what? It's not like you're going to a bad offense.
I took a job, a promotion, which required me to commute for an hour and a half to the office and then an hour and a half back. And about 3 weeks into it, I thought, what have I done? I got a young family. I was never seeing them. It was messing with my life. And I ended up resigning and saying no. And it was a huge decision to do that. Like, this was going to set my career back potentially by doing that. But at the end of the day, I had to do it. I had to just go in a different direction for the sake of my family. And as it happened, I ended up taking a job that was a lesser job when I left there to be closer to home. And in the end, it all worked out. I just started on a different path, quickly climbed the ladder again, and there we were. So when I when I think of it, I think, look, he has now got the security of staying in Detroit as long as he wants until another job comes along. Seattle is obviously a long way away from his roots in that part of America. And it's a good place to work. Like, if they continue to succeed in Detroit, his stock's not going to go. It's not going to go down. So I don't think he needs to take the first defensive coordinator to job that was an offer. And I'm not sure it was a particularly attractive job. I don't think they offered him the job, by the way. I think they just sort of let it lie out there and have a think about it. Everyone sort of take a step back. But I think potentially Kubiak was the guy. They were waiting on the Saints. Fraley was in the mix if Kubiak didn't take it, but ultimately he's decided to stay in Detroit. And I think that's fair enough for him.
What do you think it looks like? It's hard, like with Kubiak. I mean, he's got history of calling plays. The very one successful year in Minnesota calling plays. He comes from, there's a lot to like because of the tree he comes from with the Shanahans and working with that, how close that obviously his father was to that system now that you see sprinkled all across football. Very successful season in Minnesota. This year with New Orleans, Rob, it's hard to tell, right? Because it's 2 games where they had really the full complement of his offense, and then they just suffered injuries left and right. So it's hard to really gauge what they did this year. Alvin Kamara had a very good season, but I wonder, rushing wise, was it because of his system that he ran, or was it because they had to lean on Alvin Kamara because of all the injuries they had to the quarterbacks? Because remember, Carr gets knocked out, and then they're dealing with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. So it's kind of hard. How would you evaluate how he called and what their offense with the Saints looked like this year?
I think there's sort of positives and negatives. So Derek Carr had one of it. I mean, as someone who thought Derek Carr was essentially finished, he had a better season than he's had in a long, long time. So that's a positive. The way that he has taught Carr, that is, about the system. I was reading this article in The Athletic this week about the way that Kubiak puts the responsibility on the offensive line, in particular the center, to work protections, means it takes that responsibility off the quarterback's shoulders and frees him up a little bit. And Carr was saying that he really liked that idea. Mm-hmm. So that might be something that the Seahawks do. It's why I think maybe center positions can be, maybe of newfound importance for them in this offseason, because if that's the person calling the protections, then they may well go and target somebody who can handle that role, who's got a bit of experience behind them, perhaps even in this scheme.
Are we allowed to have a good center on the offensive line, Rob? Is that allowed?
Apparently it is allowed in some cities, but I don't know if there's a rule in Washington State which means you can't do it. But
there could be a separate tax or something.
but that's a good thing, that Derek Carr play well. I think it's a good thing that the run game there. The biggest problem is it got to sort of halfway through the season, and like Spencer Rattler as a rookie was having to play with a shell of an offense. Their best receiver was injured, then their second best receiver was injured, and you just couldn't function at all. Jake Haener struggled, so there's a bit of an unknown there. But I'm intrigued by it. He was being hailed as the next great young offensive mind after 2 weeks. People were writing articles saying he's going to be a head coach candidate in the offseason. So let's see how he gets on in Seattle.
I guess I don't know if this is a concern for you or for others. I just think the word out of New Orleans is, when you, and I don't know if he'll do a press conference. Like, he's not going to wow you in a press conference. No. And he's not going to wow you in an interview. And those who have covered him in New Orleans will say, he just doesn't look
boring.
like it. He's boring, and he doesn't come across as a head coach in waiting. And you kind of, when you get these offensive minds, you kind of want him to be like, or any coordinator really, whether it's a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, to be like the guy like, hey, we hope he's here for a few years, well, longer, but has great success, and then boom, he's going to be a coach, someplace in the NFL. You don't really hear that with him. And I guess, I don't know if that's a red flag necessarily for people. It's not for me, just because I think that there are plenty of coaches in all of sports that can be better assistants and assistant coaches and number 2 guys rather than be the number 1 guy. And that's okay. Steve Spagnuolo, to me, is a perfect example. I think he's a great number 2 guy. I don't know if he'd be a great number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that worried about it. Every time I've listened to him speak, I just think he sounds a lot like Kyle Shanahan, and he's not a great listen either. So
No, that's true.
I think that, and look, Gary Kubiak was not exactly Mr. Charisma. So and he won a Super Bowl with with the last remnants of Peyton Manning's career. They managed to get a Super Bowl out of him. So when they couldn't have
the Cam Newton, but okay.
Yeah, and I mean, Peyton Manning could barely throw a forward pass. Brock Osweiler was starting some of those guys. So, it doesn't worry me. Like, I think he's one of these people who has worked with a lot of good coaches. He's worked with Kevin Stefanski. He's worked with North Turner. He's worked with Kyle Shanahan. He's obviously got his dad. He's been around some of the best defensive minds of the last generation or two. So, I'm very content that he's in Seattle, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I think on paper I'm excited about it, but like with anything, right? We all should just reserve the final opinion until we actually see it, and that's fair. I mean, I think that's you just got to see what it looks like. I mean, he could come in here and a year from now, you and Rob, you and I are doing this, and we're talking about the same issues. Why can't we?
Could be.
They're not doing this. They're not doing that. What happened to the offense? But we'll wait and see. And he definitely seems, I think we all can agree on this. His background, the way he wants to attack a defense, definitely fits more in line with McDonald's vision.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're the same age. I do, that was the one thing actually listening to him is I thought that they seemed like kindred spirits. I mean, they say the same things. We're gonna have some fundamentals on the offense, but it's going to be fitted to the players that we actually have. It's pretty much exactly the same thing, word for word, that Mike McDonald said when he took the head coaching job. So, I think that they seemed quite similar. And look, Mike McDonald's not exactly the most interesting listen, to be fair. So they're probably two peas in a pod here. I think the big thing obviously is what are they going to do now? The first domino to fall is going to be Geno Smith's contract, and whether they resolve that with a compromise extension or are they going to move on? I think the fact that Pete Carroll has popped up in Las Vegas makes that aspect of potentially Geno Smith playing somewhere else a little bit more intriguing than it would have been otherwise. Mm-hmm. Then you have the question mark of the offensive line. I have to say, I've been sat. I got home from work at 11 o'clock at night last night. I was broadcasting on a soccer game, and I stayed up till 4 a.m. to watch the Senior Bowl rerun on the NFL Network and write a 3,000-word article. And you're a
sick man.
It's a very sad man. And as I was going to bed, Puck, I got into bed, and I mean this is sad in itself. That as I'm climbing in next to my asleep wife at 4 a.m., my thought turns to what the Seahawks should probably do in the draft. And as I'm sort of thinking about it, my thought was, and look, I'm just going to be honest here. I don't want them to fanny about, Puck. I don't want them to sort of. I've discussed this with a couple of people and kind of like gone, oh yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. And I'm seeing more and more people saying it. I wrote an article saying they should maybe go defense in the first round if it works out. Yeah, but basically what I'm here to say is forget all of that. Forget it. Like I've watched a day and a half of the Senior Bowl now. I was watching it before it came on here. Just go and get the best defensive lineman you can in the first round. Do not wait until round 2 or whatever and go, hey, we can move this tackle to guard instead. There's a couple of guards in the first round, pure guards, Tyler Booker and Donovan Jackson.
Is Donovan, where's Jackson from? I read
Ohio State.
Ohio State, because I was skimming it this morning. So who is the guy from like the school I think I've never heard of that you liked? Somebody from Auburn A&M or Alabama?
Oh, Alabama A&M.
Yeah.
But he was he was very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. His name is Carson Vincent.
That's right. Okay.
He's the left tackle, though. I mean, he was awful against in the 2 games that I saw. He was not very good during the season, but he was very good yesterday in the Senior Bowl. But yeah, I think Tyler Booker or Donovan Jackson, you can just plug them in, and then you don't have to. I don't want to finesse this thing. I don't want to think, oh, well, there may be a little bit more value if you go and take a tackle and you can move him around and stuff like this at 50. Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to go after what's left at 50.
And
Jackson's
Ohio
lineman.
Yeah, Jackson's Ohio State. Booker is where from?
Alabama.
Okay. Yeah, so those are two pretty good programs that have had success with producing linemen and players.
And they have, and people will say, well, Alabama's had a few busts, over the years.
Everybody does.
But Landon Dickerson's going to line up in the Super Bowl for the Eagles, and Ryan Kelly's had a good career. So you can't judge that. I mean, like if you would never draft Josh Allen if you said, well, when's the last great Wyoming quarterback?
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
Texas Tech is not exactly a quarterback, factory, is it? But they've produced. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, who might be the best one ever. Yeah. So, I think that's what I would do, Puck. It's go and get the best defensive lineman with that.
Seemed like it's a good class for that. Also a good class for D tackles. That's what I read, at least. The people who I trust, what I read is that. So those are, it's good.
It's fine. It's fine.
Fine. I don't like fine. I thought I read it was better than fine.
Yeah. Look, it's fine. Like there's, Mason Graham's going to go early. Walter Nolan's going to go early. TJ Sanders will go at some point in the top 50. And then, you then get into sort of how high is Kenneth Grant going to go at Michigan? But his tape was underwhelming. Derek Harmon has mixed views and very productive at Oregon, but what is he? Mm-hmm. You got Tyreek Williams, got 31-inch arms, good run defender at Ohio State. Ty Robinson's doing okay at the Senior Bowl. Riley Mills has been injured. Alfred Collins is all right. There's numbers there, but there's not 5 players that you think, in 10 years we're going to have said, wow, what a D tackle class.
Do you go? I'm going to ask you about the quarterbacks. Is there, because they're not going to do one early, but maybe they go. Maybe this is the year they finally draft one late, and maybe there's a sleeper in there at some place that Kubiak and these guys have their eyes on. Do you think with the hiring of Kubiak? Again, Cousins had a great season with him.
Yeah.
If somehow Cousins becomes, I don't know, like how he would become available, and really with his cost, it's probably going to make it.
Oh, he'll be available.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
He's Russell Wilson this year.
So Cousins is out there potentially. Darnold would still be, and he worked with Darnold where, in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Darnold is out there. Do you think there's a chance that they pivot off of Geno Smith at all?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there is a chance. I think Kirk Cousins will end up in Cleveland. Cleveland needs a cheap quarterback. Kevin Stefanski's had 2 years with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, and they had some success. So I think Kirk Cousins on $1 million to Cleveland makes sense because they're still paying Deshaun Watson for 1 more year. It will enable them to have a cheap starter, veteran starter who can get them out of this season.
Jesus, if you get him for that, why wouldn't you take him here?
Well, that's the argument a lot of people are making. That you could, for that price, why not? And I think the only reason that people push back on it is because we can't have an adult conversation about quarterbacks in the Seahawks fan base. So so there's that. With Darnold, I think Darnold's very interesting because I think John Schneider will like Darnold. I think the history with Kubiak in San Francisco with Darnold helps. That might be more attractive for him to come here because of that history. It was always said that Pete Carroll liked Sam Darnold, so there's always a chance that they might go after him at Vegas. And then there's the Geno Smith angle. So I think that's what it's going to come down to. Are you in the Darnold sweepstakes? Is Cousins, do you want to consider that for a year as a cheap bridge instead? Can you get something done with Geno? And then there's the draft. And I can tell now, Puck, this is going to be a long 3 months for me because I'm going to keep saying this. People are now then going to associate me with this player. If he's terrible, I'm always going to get hammered for it. But the quarterback that I think John has had his eye on all along also happens to be a really good fit for this kind of offense that Kubiak runs. And that is Quinn Ewers. And I just wonder whether that second round pick, maybe they're going to take him there.
I can't give you like some X's and O's reason why I don't care for him. All right. And you're going to throw out his release and his vision and all this to me. There's just something about him that I don't see a winner. I just don't see a guy that a game's on the line. I trust him to come through because I don't think he ever does. I don't think he ever wins it, and he's had so much talent around him. Their roster is loaded, and there's just times in big games that he just looked, I don't know, he just looked underwhelming to me, and he just doesn't look like. I guess the best way I could describe it, and I can't really quantify this with anything, is I just think he lacks the it factor.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the lack of the it factor. I mean, the problems for me are the injury record is bad. The inconsistent play has been an issue for him. He can look great and has looked great in games, but then it doesn't tend to, he's not had a great season, if that makes sense. Not had a complete season. What I would say, though, is he played really injured with a bad ankle and a bad abdomen for half of the season. And before he got the injuries, he was looking like a top 10 pick. He was brilliant at Michigan in that game, and he was on it. And then as soon as he came back from the injury, he'd lost all torque. He looked hesitant. His arm strength, his deep ball had completely gone. I just think he played hurt. Now, has he got the clutch gene? I mean, look, certainly he didn't beat Washington when they had a chance last year, and he didn't beat Ohio State this year. What I would say is that he had one of the best wins we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years when Texas, and he beat Alabama in their own backyard when, Saban's Alabama, when they were good. And it was a great performance. And it was he won them the game, essentially. And then the other thing I would say is that they needed to convert 4th and 13 at the end of the Arizona State game. And he scores a touchdown with that throw and then wins the game in overtime with his arm. So he has had moments like that. And the release is good. And he has got something about him. The size isn't great. So he is going to be one of the most divisive people. Like he could go 2nd round. He could go 5th round. Some people will like him. Some people will detest him as a quarterback. I've just got this feeling that maybe John sees something because, again, I'm sorry to bring this up again, but back in the day, he received a perfect recruiting grade. And there's only people like Jadeveon Clowney who's had that in the past. The talent, the expectation with him has been that he was going to be like a Trevor Lawrence type player. Yeah. And that will stick in the mind of some evaluators.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he was. I remember his recruiting. I remember, how big he was to go to Ohio State, and I remember just the hype around it, and then ended up staying there for was it a year, and then ends up transferring, maybe only a semester, and then ends up transferring to Texas. All right, it's going to be intriguing, you're for sure. And will this finally be the year that they spend some draft capital there on a quarterback? They keep saying it every year, Rob, and then they never do it.
It's going to happen. Like, this is the thing I think the intention's there every year.
Yeah.
It's about the opportunity. And it's not a great quarterback class, but he is maybe, there's probably like 1 or 2 quarterbacks that I can see it. And he is one that I can see it with.
Who do you think the first one is off the board? Who do you think it is? You think it's Cam?
It's going to be Cam Ward. Like, I've got a 2nd round grade on Cam Ward. And the reality on Cam Ward was he didn't even get a Senior Bowl invite last year. And people were grading him in the 5th and 6th round, which was fair. And I've seen him live. You've seen it. You probably saw every game he played for Washington State. He was not a top 10 pick in the slightest. Now, he played well for Miami. I mean, look, the ACC has become the Big 12. I'd fancy myself to throw for 100 yards in a game. Like, it's so bad. and look, he did very, very well under no real pressure. And he had a loaded team, the tight end, Restrepo. It was easy for him. But he's going to go early. I think he will be the one quarterback goes here. I tell you who I don't think is going to go early, and that's Shedeur. I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to go in the top 10. I think he's going to.
Yeah. We'll see. It's interesting. I don't know anything because I didn't think Jaden Daniels was going to be good. Jaden Daniels
pretty good.
Has been pretty good. It's weird when it comes down to the quarterbacks. I don't know with Cam. I mean, Cam's going to make some throws that are just going to wow you. And you're like, oh, my God, like, I don't know how many guys can make that throw. And then he's just going to make some decisions where you're just an absolute head scratcher. He had one in Miami last year in a game they ended up winning where they should have lost. Like, I'm trying to blank it late in the season. Where he throws it just, back across his body, back across
every game.
And you're like, what are you doing? The guy that just this year, and I've said this before, and I'll cite the game again, and I think he's a very polarizing figure is Shedeur Sanders. I remember watching the Kansas State game. Kansas State's a good football team. He lost every one of his receivers that game. Everybody gets knocked out. and he is getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, he is getting blindsided. His offensive line can't block. That kid stood in there, took every shot, and delivered every ball. And they ended up losing the game, but it was a close game. And I was under the impression, like, he seems spoiled. I wouldn't want to take him. But, man, I just came away from watching that game, just sitting on my couch going, man, that's a kid that plays hard and plays tough and had a lot of adversity against him. And
he's got some balls. I think the problem is how much do teams, like, he's not physically amazing. He doesn't have the traits and the size. He does get himself into trouble. He's the kind of player that will dance around in the pocket for 7 seconds, take a horrendous sack, and then on 3rd and 30 he'll convert. Like, that's kind of how he is. And then you've got to deal with the dad press conference every week. So the dad's going to be there. It's Colorado's weekly press conference. Hey, how do you think your son's getting on Prime? And you're going to have to deal with that. So that's going to be the problem. And with Cam, like you said it, the number of times in games where he fades backwards for absolutely no reason, when there's just make the simple read and throw the ball, and he's hanging in the pocket, he drifts backwards, all of a sudden he's having to run away from 3 players, and then he'll throw across his body, or he'll try and throw it out of bounds, and it's an intentional grounding, and he can't do those things. And that's the problem with him, is that when you get to the NFL, you have to be quicker, you have to be precise, you have to be, checking down reads. You can't play backyard football, and Cam Ward just plays backyard football. There will be the team that drafts Cam Ward, and I bet it's the New York Giants, will probably have a 2nd round grade on him, and will take him 3rd overall.
Yeah, I've liked him personally, though. He's just the way he interacts with fans and kids.
Yeah,
I'll have a little special place, at least for me. For him. All right, Rob, you're the best. Thanks for always doing it every single week. Go check out Rob's work, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Again, he stayed up till 4 a.m. He's got a 3,000-word piece on the Senior Bowl. Go check it out. He's got thoughts on Klint Kubiak, why he likes it. There's that. He's also got videos up at Rob Staton Football on YouTube, live shows with everybody, and he's nonstop work, this guy, and we're happy to have him every single week. Brought to you by Superior Linen Service. All right, Rob, catch some sleep, and we'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. See you next week.
There he is, Rob Staton. Again, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. He is a machine of how much work he puts in every single day, and just glad that we get a small piece of him every single week. Big thanks to Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926. Give him a call. 253-383-2636. Visit them at suplinen.com. Again, you can follow Rob on all the social media platforms. On Twitter at Rob Staton, and also on YouTube. Just search Rob Staton. Rob Staton Football, I should say, because he's great, man. He's great at what he does, and he's a fabulous addition here there to Puck Sports. All right, coming up now, Ryan Divish. Now, there's a little change today with Ryan Divish, and again, I hope we're experimenting with something with Divish, and I want feedback from the listeners. So you can email me, puck@pucksports.com. Caught up with Ryan earlier this morning, as he was preparing to do whatever he does in Havre, Montana. Spring training, we got just weeks away. We taped, it's a long one today. It's a good one. We cover Little League, Legion Ball. He coaches Legion Ball. So we talk about our love for Little League and coaching and the purity of baseball. Large conversation, large chunk of it, which you're going to hear coming up next, is about the MLB.com article, the factors of hitting at T-Mobile, the issues with T-Mobile. Is it truly the issue with the park, or is the issue with the players they have acquired and the method they go by building the baseball team? What's the largest factor to why this team under Jerry Dipoto has struggled so much to score runs and hit? And there's a lot of factors to it. Park plays one, Player acquisition plays one. As Ryan notes it beautifully, the development of pitchers now and how much that has changed. There's a lot of factors into it. We also talk about free agency, the lack of moves, the waiting of Alex Bregman, all of that. It's 55 minutes. Now, what we're experimenting with is I've taken out 15 or 16 minutes of it, of the best stuff, really. Well, not the best stuff. It's all good, but a juicy portion of it talking about the ballpark. Now, the rest of the Divish episode for today is the full episode will be available to Puck's Posse members. So once we're wrapped up at 1 o'clock, the full episode will come out for Puck's Posse members, 55 minutes on YouTube, the video and audio. The 16-minute part here is free for everyone. You can sign up. It's just $5 a month. And, of course, if you sign up for a year, you get a discount by signing up there for a year. There's two ways you can sign up. One is simply go to patreon.com/PuckSports to sign up. And it's easy. You join there. It gives you an option to $5 a month. It also gives you an option to sign up for a year. If that's like a little too confusing, like, oh, I don't really know how to, that seems too much. Then, okay, if you don't want to go there, you can simply just go to PuckSports.com, which of course is my website where we put all of our content up there at PuckSports.com. There it is, beautiful website. And then at the very top, the red banner, new membership, join Puck's Posse. You click that, it's going to take you right to the membership page. Okay, so we're experimenting with this week. If you're any issues with it, feedback, I want to hear feedback. And if you have any problems with it, you're like, hey, this money doesn't work for me, just email me, puck@pucksports.com. We're going to have more on this later with Hey, What the Puck. But you're going to enjoy the 16 minutes we're about to play. You are really going to enjoy the entire 55-minute portion of the show. We just had a lot to get to today, and when we recorded, I just knew it was going to be too long, just knowing going into it. So this is why we have divided it up today. So we're giving you the best of both worlds. One, taking care of our Puck's Posse members because of the commitment they've made to Puck Sports, but then also to all of you who come here for the daily content. We're also taking care of you there as well. All right, Ryan Divish, Seattle Times, covers the Mariners. It's all brought to you by Chalet Bowl. ChaletBowl.com. Book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun.
He's heard just the roof, and like when it's cold and windy, like if they could close the roof, the ball travels better, carries better. It's more fair. Like the colder weather, the marine layer, some people call it, in April and May when it's cool out, it's not the home runs that are suppressed as much. I mean, they are, but it's that ball of the gap that should travel farther and get down that hangs up enough for somebody to run underneath and catch. You know, you can just see it, like where you'll see a ball that you think is hit real hard, it dies on the warning track, or it dies, or it's run down. And there's more opportunities to catch it. I mean, think about all the balls that we've seen Julio run down in the gap from opposing hitters, and everybody say, well, other teams have to play in it too. And it's true, but other teams come in for 3 days and get a leave and then feel good about themselves. You're on a 12-game homestand, and it's crappy and cold and whatever, and you feel like you've been robbed of 3 or 4 hits. It gets in your head. Ask Justin Smoke, ask Jesse Winker and his 3-cent head. I mean, to me, it does get in your head. And like the win factor, and when the roof is closed, it does. Like the players don't, and it's just not comfortable to play either. Yeah. It's like you're all bundled up. It's just cool. It's miserable. Some people mention like the time. I don't give a shit what you think. Those games at 6:40 are nice. 7-10 games, and even with the pitch clock, it's too late. I like getting done earlier. It makes everybody happy.
That doesn't factor into their play, though. Stop it.
I don't know. Somebody mentioned
that factors into your life.
Well, that's true too. I mean, but.
What if JP Crawford said, you know what, I just can't play at 7:10 anymore. I think part of our problems are at 7:10 starts. Can we start the games at 6:40, please?
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't mind 7:10, whatever. With the pitch clock, it's evened up everything.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. It's difficult for me to recall what my life's like. But no, to me, the article offered a lot of kind of verification of what we've kind of seen or kind of whispered. And it does no help for the reputation of the park.
Right.
The batter's eye, I've heard complaints about, especially during day games, just kind of the glare. I don't know what they're going to do. The way the field is set up, it's hard to just move it. Although I'm sure they could. If you could, if you told the Mariners, hey, look, we can if we move this batter's eye in and even it out, but we can put in a wine bar out there where we can charge that. Boom, it's done. Let's make some money.
Yeah. Well, you know what I found interesting though because you and I have talked a lot about the roof. Yeah. About should they close, and JP Crawford has been a big advocate of closing the roof. Close the roof, especially early in the season. Now, I would imagine the pitchers are like, don't close the roof. We like it open. But what I think the biggest takeaway from that article was that research they did for the 6 years that closing the roof has no factor at all. Zero.
But again, it does it or doesn't it? Because when the roof is open. I mean, it's no rain, humidity, whatever. Does it even out or isn't it? Because some of the days when it's open versus the days it's closed, I don't know. Because think about this. Think about the August and June days when it's open, July days when it's open. Yeah, man, it's hot. The ball's going to carry. When it's closed, was it open? What is it? Open in April versus closed in April. What are the numbers? Maybe that's
and I would say this to even if the numbers show that closing the roof doesn't factor in, I still would close it in the beginning of the season for what you just touched on earlier, the psychological factor of it. Well, because I think of a player like JP and these guys come out and they see it closed, I think it eases their mind. And you played in college. I don't need to tell you this about baseball. There's no other sport that is so mentally demanding than this sport. And if you can just be like, oh, I've already got a win today. I'm already ahead in the count because the roof is closed. I just think it relaxes them. Whether it truly helps them or not, I just think that they go into that night's game going, all right, roof's closed. Perfect.
I played in Mayville, North Dakota, which is 3 miles from the Arctic fucking Circle. Can I curse on here?
Of course. Well, yeah, you've been here for a while. You do, so you're good.
The Arctic freaking Circle. I mean, and they snowblowed the field, and we started games at 35 and 37 degrees. So, I understand cold, but yeah, it's kind of like the whole line from Bull Durham, If you think you're pitching well because you're getting laid or you're not getting laid or because you wear women's underwear, then you are. And if you think you hit better because the roof is closed or you feel like you see it better, then you should. Let's be real honest, because you take your son to these games because your son is a lunatic and he's got the long hair.
It's cold. Yeah. It's freezing as hell.
It's fucking miserable.
Yeah, it's especially in the beginning of the year.
I credit Mariners fans for going. I look around. We'll be in the press box and the wind's blowing and the roof's open, and I sit there and say, if I was a fan, the most dire, there is no way I would spend the money to tickets, park, food, and then be cold and be uncomfortable. I don't know that it makes it that much better closing the roof, but it's a hell of a lot more comfortable, especially when the wind's blowing. And my favorite aspect of all this is Chuck Armstrong, who was the big proponent. And I think, honestly, I don't think he liked opening and closing the roof very much because it costs money, a lot of money.
Do you know, let me stop you. Do you know how much it costs them to close it?
No, I haven't heard. You
got to find that out.
Yeah. But for a while, somebody said it was $12,000 or something every time they had to open or close it.
I could see them being like, no, we can't close it today.
Well, he always wanted to say is if it's not raining, we want to have baseball under the open skies because that's how it's meant to be played. This man sat in a goddamn suite. Howard Lincoln sat in a suite.
Yeah. With heaters on their feet.
Yeah, I say what you want. I mean, at least Stanton's out there in the Diamond Club all the time, sitting outside. He's got I love it because he rocks the parka with the jersey, the oversized jersey.
It's a good. It's I like
so
it.
I just think it's uncomfortable to me. Right. If it's uncomfortable for the fans, how the hell is it going to be comfortable for the players?
I totally get it. What I would do is I'd close it, and then I would find like I have on my back deck, I would just put a series of just heaters everywhere. I'm serious. Yeah, just everywhere around that stadium and just shoot heat down. It is miserable in the beginning of the season. It just is, and I agree that it's miserable there for the players. But my takeaway from it, again, with the wind and it got that whole article got real scientific. The wind, the sun. There's factors to every ballpark. It's not like it's warm in Minnesota in the beginning of the year, or Minneapolis, or Boston, or New York, or Cleveland, or Detroit. There are a lot of places that aren't the Dodgers and the Angels and the Padres and the teams in Florida. The Giants. My God, even in the summer, I went to a game in the summer at the Giants. It was like 40 degrees. It was miserable.
Like Hanniger told me he'd much rather hit at T-Mobile Park than in San Francisco.
So there's always these issues. My takeaway, and I had a great conversation with your coworker Adam Jude about this yesterday as we both were walking our dogs and yelling at each other. I just think it came across as a lot of excuse making, because at the end of the day, good players can hit there, and it's been proven that good players can hit there. Now, and Adam, I think, brought up a good point, because I reference a lot of 2001 and their stats. It's a different game, and I got to acknowledge it's a different game now than it was in 2001. But even if I cite those stats of how John Olerud hit there, and Edgar hit there, and Boone hit there, and McLemore and Stan Javier, and again, now, am I cherry picking great players? Yeah. Olerud's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's a very good player. Brett Boone's not going to get in the Hall of Fame, but he's a very good player. Never had an issue hitting there. 2015 is for Dipoto's first year. I think that sometimes people think Cano was a bad signing here. He was not.
No, he's really good.
Cano crushed it here and crushed it at home. Never had a problem hitting it at that ballpark, ever. And I just think there's more examples. Ty France's first couple of years was fine here.
Yeah.
I think if you get good players who know how to hit, they'll hit. That's it. I just think that he hasn't acquired people that are good at hitting.
Oh, well, do I think there is an effect? Yeah, I think it affects certain players more than others. Did it affect Nelson Cruz? No.
Right.
And Cano is not that type of hitter. And, we've kind of said that the pull side to right field is a little more friendly. It's not hitting in Yankee Stadium. It's not a joke like that. So I think you can make complaints about the stadium. To me, like, the performance aspect of the stadium isn't, like the overall team, the player performance. I don't look at it that way. I look at the reputation and whether or not that hinders them into an already difficult mix of trying to get players to come here, because you are in upper Alaska, or Southwest Alaska, and you're far from, Miami and Texas and some of the places where like a lot of players live. States that have no income tax, though Washington doesn't either.
I feel like we're going to get one day.
Yeah, we're knocking on the door. Sometimes you wonder if that's better than what you pay for license plates. But
fair.
But like, so it's already not a great draw to get guys to come to Seattle. The distance, the time difference, the flights, all the travel, all that stuff. Then you have the reputation of the organization, never won anything, they're not spending, and then you have this park that just kills numbers, and like whether or not you're getting paid, you still want to put up numbers and produce. Look at Adrian Beltre, like he was one of the biggest, like he was never on the record complaining about the park, but he hated hitting here. He hated hitting in Seattle, and wasn't consequently a few years later after that. And seeing how it kind of affected the mindset, they moved the fences in and they made some adjustments. And for a while, it evened out. The climate is changing around Seattle and the weather is changing. Like, it does feel like some years you get more of the warmer summer, it gets warmer earlier, and other years it isn't, and it's cold. I mean, that's going to affect it. But to me, like, that's the bigger issue is, does it affect them getting players in here? Like, how much of that is a hindrance when you already don't have very much money to spend anyways? So, like, what we call balling on a budget. Like, if you only got, if you're limited in the budget the way that ownership is limited, Jerry Dipoto, and then you already have a place and kind of a reputation with the organization, with the park, and with the travel that players don't want to go here, then you got to overspend to get them to come here. And so then that limits you even more. It's San Diego is not a great hitting spot early in the year. It's got what do they call it, the May gray and the June gloom. I mean, like, it isn't a great hitting spot at times. God, though, it's a beautiful place in late June, or even when the June gloom comes off in the afternoons. But, like, they don't have that. And so I think that's my bigger issue is how does it affect them in player acquisition? Is it that much of a hindrance to what they already have hindrances? Like, you're not going to be able to move the team. You don't have a World Series. That doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. You're already working with a limited budget. Does the park and the reputation of being unfair to hitters affect them that much? And how does it change their roster lineup or their roster construction stuff? Because, like, that's another thing is, like, you remember Service talking about it, and we need to hit more homers and stuff, and for guys like Eugenio Suarez who hit the ball far enough, that's not an issue. But it's the guy that hits 10 homers a year that might hit 18 homers somewhere else. That's what changes it. The kind of the replacement level player who doesn't have the elite bat speed or the elite exit velocity to drive the ball out of the park, but might benefit other places. How does that affect them? I mean, I just think that those are the issues. And you're right in the sense, though, I can't look at really any player that they brought in. I mean, like, and we've already established this. How many players have they brought in, like, at their apex or their peak where you said, okay, this park has hindered them or they didn't hit? I mean, Mitch Garver was the highest, the most they've ever spent on a free agent position player. And before that, it was Nori Aoki. So, like, you're trading for some hitters and they haven't produced. But, like, Winker didn't produce in Seattle, but he also played in one of the most hitter-friendly ballparks in all of baseball too. And you would think that, like, somebody in the Mariners would say, well, this might not translate well.
Yeah, I mean, it's appreciate Ryan Divish for joining me, his weekly appearance. We talk to Divish every single week, and as we said there, we kind of were experimenting with something. It was a long conversation that we had with Divish this week, nearly an hour, just talking about not only the factors of T-Mobile Park. There's like almost 20 more minutes on that, about hitting there, the success that people have had there, the non-success that people have had there. For your parents out there, good, like a few minutes on Little League and Legion Ball in the beginning. And then the Alex Bregman situation and free agency. And Ryan goes through a long list of guys that they could be looking at, and just the real conundrum that this team is in right now. We are, what is it, January 29th? We're talking 12, 13, 14, 2 weeks until they're going down there. And still, to this point, have not significantly improve this baseball team offensively. And Brian brings up something interesting in there is, if they can't go offensively, do they lean in to something else? Now, that full 55-minute interview, both the video and audio, the full portion of it will be available to Puck's Posse members. And again, as I mentioned before, there's 2 different ways that you can sign up. This is just something that we're experimenting with, so please be patient with it. There's 2 ways to do it. You can sign up by simply just going to become a member, to where you are supporting Puck Sports, you're supporting all of the daily free content we do, but in addition to bonus and extra content we do. And, guys like Divish, who are, massively popular, we want to just kind of lean in to that content there as well. And for the people that have already signed up, I just want to make it worthwhile for them as well, to give them some exclusivity to the content that we are sharing. You can simply just go to PuckSports.com, just click on that new membership, join Puck's Posse. You can go that way. That's probably just the easiest way to do it. One stop there will take you there. You can also just go to the Patreon.com site as well and just search Puck Sports. It's patreon.com/PuckSports. It will take you right there, Puck's Posse community. And again, we've got added content up there like Dynamic Duos, even though we've released that free now to everyone. Other content up there as well. And we'll have bonus content coming soon, including a weekly visit with Dane Brugler from The Athletic, breaking down the NFL draft starting shortly. In fact, starting the week after the Super Bowl. And so, please, I encourage you to join Puck Sports and the Puck Posse community, supporting all things that we do at Puck Sports, free and non-free. And again, just $5 a month. And again, just supporting of the overall cost. So the entire interview will be posted up at 1 o'clock, or maybe a little bit sooner, on the Puck's Posse community site. And again, 55 minutes with Divish, talking a lot more about free agency, more about the ballpark, more about Julio Rodrigues and the influence of Edgar Martinez, the development of these pitchers now and just how dominant they are and how much does that have effect on the offense. The error of this front office that they've made in building this offense. And have they gone about it the right way? Or did they err and not build it correctly to how this ballpark plays? All right, let's finish up with Hey, What the Puck. That's going to lead us into this as well, same topic. Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. To make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online, restoration1.com. All right, so what we did here today with Divish is just a workshop experimentation that I'm looking at moving forward with some of the content that we do. So with the content for Puck's Posse members, in addition to the free stuff that we are doing daily with Jim and Rob and John and stuff when we have baseball, when Bill Kruger comes back and Brad Adam and I'm missing somebody, Michael Shandugar, Lofa being on, Troy Wynn's our handicapper. The Cougar content we did this year with Jim and also Paul Sorensen, the Cougar Collective shows that we did, featuring the coaching staff, and hopefully we can continue to do that next season. Even the content we did for the Huskies there as well. So we have thrown a lot at you. I've thrown a lot at you in this past year, just trying to make this work as we get into 2025. But we still are sharing as much as we possibly can to all of the public. Just as an example there with Divish, giving the public a 16, 17-minute view into a longer form segment that was 55 minutes. Listen, and I think most of you understand this, and I think the people that have joined the Posse understand this as well. That you're running your own media company, your own business is difficult and hard. Now, you're not supported by $1 billion media company. The advertisers that we have are phenomenal, and they're going to continue to grow. So that's part of revenue making as well. But anybody just wants to make a living. And at the same time as you're making a living, and what I am always guarded against is making a living, continuing to do this, but at the same time having the access and the accessibility for everyone. And that's a huge thing for me, that I do want to protect you, the viewer, or you, the audience member. So regardless of how you feel about that, I appreciate all the love, the feedback, both positive and negative. Here's why I enjoy the negative. You want to know why? People are like, well, why do you enjoy it? Because you're responding. No one's ever going to truly, and nor should they, by the way, agree with everything that someone says. as long as you just don't keep it nasty or avoid keeping it nasty. No one's ever just going to agree with you, and they shouldn't. But it still says that someone is paying attention to the work you're doing. Most importantly, though, the love and all that, I appreciate the support and commitment for those who have joined Puck's Posse, and even those who have not, who just dial up this show up every single day. I mean, we get incredible numbers across all different platforms. Numbers on YouTube and the numbers combined with X, you're getting anywhere from 1,000, a couple thousand people checking in daily. And then also, the numbers can reach that same that just are listening on the app that we created, in addition to the views and listens that we get on the playback later. So there's a huge growing audience, and it's great. And I'm thrilled, and I'll be honest with you, this is better than I ever expected it to be. I really didn't even expect this in year one. But moving forward, I've got to protect what we're doing and protect the business that we're putting forward, that I'm putting forward every day. But at the same time, to run it like a business, but also protect, as I mentioned before, the access for everyone. Trying to play both sides in a way. If you have any issues at all, any issues that is for joining to become a Puck's Posse member, specifically for this episode today with Divish, which again runs about an hour long. We played that 16 minutes of it. And you just, hey, I'm not into it. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to, or I can't afford $5 a month. And I get it. Listen, sometimes you think, oh, it's $5. It's a cup of coffee. That's it. But I understand how you're being asked to pay for everything. There's a lot of expenditures. I know what that's like. I mean, I pay for a newspaper. I pay for ESPN Plus. I pay for this service and that service because I pay for John Canzano. I pay to read John Wilner. I pay for The Athletic because these are the things that I want. And I also read those guys or watch those things, and you've got to support those things. So if you do have any issues with it, and I'd like to hear feedback from people, both positive and negative, concerns, all of it, questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via email. I will respond to everyone. Puck@PuckSports.com. Puck@PuckSports.com. And I will get to one and all of you. I will respond to everyone. So if you have any issues with it financially, just let me know, and we will work something out. All right, that's it for a Wednesday show. Check out everything up on YouTube. We put the whole show up there on YouTube. So when you're there, please subscribe to the channel there as well. Also on the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, later. I know that many of you listen to this later in the day, so good afternoon, good evening to you. When you're there, please rate the show. Also, please leave a review of the show. And for selected guests like the 16-minute version we had with Divish today, that will be a standalone as well. We'll be up on YouTube as well. Also, the Rob Staton show, that will be up on YouTube. We'll separate that from the full show there as well. All right, Thursday show, we should talk to Michael Shandugar. We'll get his thoughts on Klint Kubiak, other Seahawks news and notes. There really is no offseason for the Seahawks as we are getting closer and closer to baseball season starting. I think we'll have Garofalo on. Mike is at the Senior Bowl, and this week is usually crazy for Mike. So we'll try to squeeze him on, tape Mike. I don't know. We're going to try to get Garofalo on at some point because, Garofalo 2 weeks ago told us that Klint Kubiak was going to be the guy, and he ended up being the guy. And so Mike's great. So we'll try to get him on from the Senior Bowl if we can. All right. So go enjoy the rest of your fabulous Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, I promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!